Hello everyone, I am Raw Toast and welcome back to another First Impressions in Review. Today we are discussing Palworld. Palworld is a new early access open world crafting survival game. Yes, there has been many. Let's just address that now. There has been many of those games. But nonetheless, you can build, explore, fight, craft, and befriend many different types of creatures called pals, alone or up to 32 players on your server, because you can host your own server. Palworld was developed and published by the game developer Pocket Pair, a Japanese game studio based in Tokyo, and the game was exclusively released on Steam and the Xbox Game Pass for PC. Pocket Pair was founded in April 2015 by Takaro Mizobi. I apologize in advance if I pronounce that incorrectly. Palworld is Pocket Pair's third game so far, with a fourth game on the way with an expected release time of the first quarter of 2024. We are almost a third through that quarter, so I'm guessing the game will most likely come out in March. If not, it's going to be delayed. The previous titles were Craftopia, which came out in September 2020, and AI Art Imposter, which came out in November 2022. Both of these titles are still in early access, with Palworld also being an early access title. So all three of this company's games have been released in early access and are still currently in early access. Palworld was announced back in 2021, and to be frank, it looked like a bit of a meme game. I mean, let's be honest here. When we all saw that first trailer with basically a bunch of furry little sheep, woolly sheep, just crafting guns and all this kind of stuff in a factory setting, it looked kind of dumb, it looked kind of funny, but honestly, you never know where these things kind of go. But I certainly didn't take it particularly seriously myself, but I was always interested into seeing where this game would actually go, whether it would be a good game, whether it would be a bad game, and whether this type of game would ever release. And whether Pokemon's developer, Nintendo, the creator, would discover this and just give them the old boom boom shake the room, cease and desist. But look, here we are, the game's out. I can honestly say though, I'm actually really surprised with the release product. Like I said, the game looked odd, it looks like a joke, but it's been very interesting. It's been a very interesting and a rather positive experience playing the game so far. There are a lot of good things about this game. There are heaps and heaps of good things, and there are also some negative things which I'm going to go through in a moment, my friends. And I do think the game could benefit from quite a few different changes and suggestions and tweaks and fixes and additives and taking away, which I will get through as well. These are just my personal preferences or what I personally think they should put into the game, and also these are my personal pros and cons based on purely my experience playing the game since it's released. I've been playing it all throughout the weekend and a little bit this week, so I've gotten to see a lot of what the game offers. Quite a bit of what the game offers. Obviously, I haven't seen everything just yet because the game is extremely expansive, and I am playing solo as well, so I did not get to experience the multiplayer. But a few of my friends who are playing the multiplayer have nothing but good things to say about it, like in terms of connectivity and how everything's going so far. But I won't comment on that because I personally haven't experienced that. So we're going to begin with the pros, my dudes. So, the game is extremely well optimized. I've been playing the game, I've had maybe 2 frame drops, that's it. I mean, was extremely surprised with this so far, because I've played many games throughout the years, many AAA games, many indie games, and quite a few AAA games who have released over the past, let's say, 3 years, have not exactly been optimized. This game is running buttery smooth. I think I had 2 frame drops when I was, loading into areas, and that's about it. The gameplay loop is extremely simple. I really like survival games and crafting games, things like that. I really enjoy Conan Exiles, Rust, 7 Days to Die, those types of games. So I've always really enjoyed that game loop of basically just gather, tech up, and go into some combat or whatever it may be. I personally enjoy it because it's simple, it's fun, and it's not exactly difficult to grasp. There's lots of pickups. Now, this may sound kind of strange thing to sort of point out, but when you start the game, there is a lot of chests, there's a lot of materials on the ground, there is a lot of the Pal Spheres, which is basically the game's version of Pokeballs, lying about, which means you can start doing pretty much everything really quickly. You can start catching the Pals, or employing your indentured servants indefinitely very early on, which I think is a really good thing, because it doesn't mean you have to spend 35 minutes trying to get this, trying to get that, just to be able to start what the actual game is about, which I think is a very good thing. Customizable difficulty settings. So there's quite a few difficulties to start, pretty much like easy, normal, and hard, and etc. But you can customize each of the difficulties to something that you liked and remove the things you don't like, so you can still keep somewhat of a combat difficulty or your resource scarcity, for example. Like, I personally do not like, in survival games, when you die, you drop your bag. I just don't like it. I think it's unfun. If I've spent 20 minutes trying to get to a place and then I die, I don't want to have to spend 20 minutes just to get back to the place just to get my stuff. That's just me, so I personally turn that setting off. Capturing still grants resources. Now, when you fight the pals, when you come across the pals, each of them has a drop, basically. Like, they'll drop meat, they might drop wool, whatever it may be. So when you kill them, you get these resources, obviously. They drop on the ground, but a good thing that they've done, when you capture them, you still are granted the same resources. So you are actually incentivized to not only kill, but also capture them, purely from a resource perspective, which I think is very, very good. XP bonuses for catching the same pal. So, when you when you would play another game like Pokemon, for example, you would catch a Pidgey, and then you probably will never catch another Pidgey again. Because you don't really need to. You'll get to Pidgeotto, Pidgeot, etc., and you'll just farm them then for XP. If you catch up to 10 of these, you are given an XP bonus until you hit the 10th one, so you're actually incentivized once again to sort of catch the earlier ones or everything that you find quite a lot, at least until that certain point. So I think it's a very, very good thing, especially early on when you can farm out XP quite efficiently just by catching the first few pals that you come across at such a low level. Pals all level passively. So much like Pokemon, I'm going to be referencing Pokemon quite a lot. If you've seen anything of the game, you kind of can assume why I'm referencing Pokemon. I mean, what other games are you catching monsters with a spherical device and then putting them in your pocket? Like, come on now. They all level passively, so whenever you would do a Pokemon battle, the Pokemon that did combat will get XP, and there, it was an item, I think it was called the XP share in several of the games, where, you could give that to another Pokemon, they would always get the battle XP as well. In this, everything you do, all that XP is also granted to the pals that are in your party, which you can have 5 of, which I think is just a really, really nice way of being able to level up everything and keeping the levels up without having to grind killing 20 million things just to level up one, then do it again just to level up the second one. So I think it's a really, really nice addition to the game. There are mounts. There is 3 types of mounts. There is land mounts, swimming mounts, and flying mounts. I love that. I love that because I want to be able to traverse areas a bit faster than running. New World, you took 2 years. Alright, Palworld had it day 1. Come on now. But I think it's really, really cool. The flying mounts are really sick, really fun. Stamina's a bit of an issue on the flying mounts in my opinion, because it seems like they run out of stamina quite quickly and you don't get to go as high as you want. But I'm extremely happy with them because they're super fun, they're quite cool. You just need to craft a saddle for them, which is relatively cheap, all things considered. No cash shop. This is a game that you could easily load to the brim with microtransactions, from XP boost to just, new pals, better catch rates, and all this kind of thing. You could absolutely load this up if you really wanted to, and they didn't. They chose not to, which I think is a really, really good thing. Plenty of variety of pals. So pals, like I said, are basically Pokemon. There is 137 of them in total, if I'm not mistaken. 137, which means there is a mass variety of unique Pokemon. Sorry, unique pals. My apologies, don't sue me, Nintendo. That you can catch, which you can collect, and they all have their own uniqueness to them. They'll sort of look. Most of them look different. There are some region variance ones where one might look different in the grasslands and looks different in the desert zone, for example. They all can do, quite different things, which is really quite cool. A lot of them give different resources, like the big chicken fella, he drops eggs, the sheep fella and the alpaca, they drop wool, and so on, which I think is really cool. They have such a big variety, which also comes to the next point of, satisfying that collecting itch. It's really fun collecting things in games, especially things that have a tangible effect on your gameplay. So these have a very, very large tangible effect on your gameplay of, you want to get, X, Y, and Z pals because they're really good at mining materials, or they're really good at, combat specifically, or whatever it may be. You can breed pals to basically fully min-max. You can breed pals to pretty much try and get the best traits out of everything, and I think that's really quite cool, because then you can get the best, team ever. And I think that'd be absolutely sick. That idea is absolutely sick, and I really, really appreciate things like that are in there. I personally won't really be partaking that much in there, because I just like doing other things, but, I'm glad as something as simple as that is there. NPC raids. You can be raided by NPCs. So basically, the pals or the human NPCs discover your location, and they decide that you should not be there, so they're going to give you the left, right, and night out of Palworld, and just try to remove you from the circumstances. But you know what? You can stop that, and that is great. I love how the game reacts to you like that, and tries to fight you. Conan Exiles did that, and I really, really enjoy that aspect of Conan Exiles, so I thought it was quite cool. And now for the cons. It is extremely easy to get stuck in terrain and basically just be locked. You have to try and kill yourself, you have to reload, or you have to teleport or something like that. It is just super duper annoying, getting forced into walls, and also your pals can get stuck in walls or on top of trees. No idea how it happens, but at one point they're there. Audio balancing. Certain audio is just extremely loud compared to everything else. Like, you'll be walking through a cave, for example, and then all of a sudden, there's a couple like standing fires there to illuminate the area, and they are blasting you with that fire noise. And meanwhile, your footsteps are barely a whisper in the distance. And a few other odds. That's just the prime example I have. But it just needs to be it's like a little tweak, just a little tweak. AI pathfinding. The pathfinding is terrible. It is just absolutely terrible. If you play the game more than 11 minutes, you've seen the pathfinding yourself. Your pals get stuck on things, they get stuck on the ceiling, they just stop attacking because they somehow can't reach the enemy that's in front of them, and it just really needs work. Or when you get one of the NPC raids, they just run past your base and then just stop. So the AI pathfinding and the AI in general needs substantial work. It needs absolutely substantial work. This is like a half-decent baseline as like a minimum viable product, but it needs to be immensely better for long term. Materials way too much. I don't like encumbrance in games. I know that may not be a super popular opinion, but I know a lot of people do agree with me in the sense that there's nothing more annoying than when you're playing a game and you're just encumbered by materials and you're like, okay, this is just super annoying, I've got to drop stuff. I personally have always preferred item count limits, for example, like Elder Scrolls Online, or Rust, for example, where you are determined by how much you can carry, by how many slots you have available for those materials. I personally like that, but a lot of the materials weigh so much. So, for example, you need to craft many ingots, to craft quite a few items throughout the game, and they get steadily more expensive as you tech up through the tech trees. One ore node will give you 40 ore, which will then give you 20 ingots, which is about 300 weight, which is pretty much more than half your inventory. I don't like that. I think it should be heavily reduced, especially because the amount you actually need. And in terms of your encumbrance as well, that comes on to my next point, equipment counts to weight. This is just like a me thing, but I feel like a few people may agree with this. Whenever you equip an armor or a weapon or something like that, I don't think that should count towards your weight. I feel like that should be excluded from weight. That should purely be equipment. It shouldn't account towards your overall inventory. So it's like you don't really have 500 inventory space, you have 400 because of your equipment. So I personally don't like that. And the last thing so far on my cons is having to, once again, this may sound a bit silly to a lot of people, but for me it just seems very, very odd, and I think it's something that could just easily be removed, doesn't necessarily need to be there, is just having to craft multiple weapon types to use multiple ammo types. I'm a big fan of, if I have a bow, I can use arrows, and I can use poison arrows, fire arrows, normal arrows, etc. I don't like the fact that I need to have to craft a separate item to use that ammo type. I think I should just be able to use that ammo type as a whole, because an arrow is still acceptable for a bow. I don't think I should need to craft a fire bow. I just find it kind of annoying, and it's just something that I don't think should be there. But once again, that's very much a me gripe. You don't necessarily need to agree with that, but that's just how I feel about it. Yeah, that's so far my thoughts on the game, in terms of my pros and cons. Obviously, there's many, many more things to mention, but I don't want this to go for 17 million hours. But I have a few personal ideas on what I think they should add to the game, what could be good for the game, or what should be removed from the game. Just like a couple of passing thoughts, which I think could really elevate the experience of everyone who is basically enjoying the game itself. Or at least, for me anyway. Organization settings. So what I mean by that very specifically is when you get the pals, you build your base, which is also really, really fun. You get your pals to work in your base. They can construct things for you, they can move things for you and everything. They will always put an item in the first accessible box or on top of a previous stack in the box. I would really, really appreciate if I could say, determine where these items go. Like, the food will always go in this box, the wood will always go in this box. I think it'd just be really nice if I could just set that up, or have like a drop-down list like they do in RimWorld, where you can just determine what can and can't go in the box. I think that'd just be really, really nice. More caves. So the game features caves that you can explore, you can catch big monsters, you can get some resources like sulfur and a few other odds and sods. All the caves I've visited so far basically are a copy and paste of each other. I would just like maybe potentially like a sort of a procedurally generated route where they're all very unique, sort of different every time. It's not really like a necessity. I just think it'd be nice to keep the game a bit more fresh and a bit more diverse every time you jump into a cave. It's not a case of, okay, I go left, 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 right, I'm at the end. You know what I mean? Reduce weights for materials. I said this before in my cons list, I just think they should be reduced less. I don't want to have to spend, you know, X amount of time making multiple trips to get this much ore back at my base, then I can craft this one item. I would just prefer if I can carry a lot more, so I can do less trips of just bringing resources back, and more trips of exploring, catching pals, battling bosses, and that kind of thing. Improved AI. Well, goes back to my previous point. The AI is extremely dreadful so far. Like, it's okay. It's okay, like, it's a university project level. It is not a $40, you know, game level. I think it needs to be substantially, basically, it needs to be overhauled completely. And I think that's something they should heavily focus on above everything else so far. I think that should be the core focus, excluding things like, you know, maybe connectivity issues, optimization, things like that for other builds, and so on and so forth. I think that should be absolutely a core focus. Removing the different bows and crossbows, once again, I just think it's kind of silly having multiple bows for multiple ammo types when it could just be one and just using multiple ammo types. Once again, that's just my preference. So, the game has shiny variants. Basically, you'll find your pal. Pal A. Pal A is a normal pal, he looks great. Pal B is the same pal, but he's shiny. He has a shining sound around him. If you've seen them before, you know the exact sound I'm referring to. It's like a, kind of like a shimmering twinkle almost, right? And the only difference is, or there's like two main differences. They have like the lucky trait, which makes them basically more efficient, a bit better, and they're much bigger. I personally would just like to see them maybe look different, a different shape. Like, instead of the chicken looking like a big round chicken, it could be a square chicken, because I think it'd just be funny. I just think the shiny variants should look different rather than just being bigger. I'm talking purely aesthetics, not necessarily like their skills or stats or anything like that. And lastly, which I think could be really, really fun and really, really cool, take the route that Elden Ring did and have an arena. If you could, say, get your party of 5 and have an arena, and also you yourself be participating in the combat, that'd be really, really cool. You basically would have Pokemon battles. It'd be a fighting arena, and I think that'd be really fun to have in the game. A nice little addition to the game, and, you know, why not? It'd be cool. It would, you know, you could have multiple builds and so on and so forth, because there are multiple types of powers like fire, normal, dragon, and so on and so forth. But yeah, I think so. And anyway, that's my thoughts on the game. So that's basically my rough, quick thoughts on the game. I've been having an extremely fun time with it. Honestly, it's a game where I can just play for 6 hours and it's like, I just look over like, oh, okay, it's midnight, I've got work in 6 hours, I probably should go to bed now. I think it's a really good game. I'm really, really enjoying the game. I'm really keen to see where they actually take the development for this title, especially with the previous titles still being in early access after several years and releasing, you know, multiple on top of that, and a new game coming out potentially within the next 2 months. I think it's safe to say it's best to be cautious with this title. I'm not saying it's going to be abandoned, I'm not saying it's going to be poorly developed in the future. I'm saying with a company that does have multiple early access titles still in early access after releasing their third entry into, you know, their catalog, I think it's fair to say let's be a little cautious and not put all our eggs in this basket, but just have fun with the product that we currently have. So honestly, my experience so far, I will say the game is a good 8.5 out of 10. I honestly think that. Like I said, it has a lot of detractors, mainly being the AI, which is a heavy detractor for me because it just kind of ruins the immersion, it ruins the overall experience for the player, and it just looks really silly when your pal walks into a wall and it gets stuck. But that's just my thoughts, my friends. That is just my thoughts from one person on the internet from their personal experience of the game. What did you think of the game? Give me the goss. How do you feel about this game? Are you enjoying it? Are you not enjoying it? Are you going to buy it? Are you not going to buy it? I would love to know why down in the comments below. Let me know. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Have an absolute lovely day, a lovely night, and hopefully I'll see you all really, really soon, okay?